Hello and welcome to my world, folks. Welcome to another episode of Talk Leadership with Cedrick. Everybody needs a little TLC, and I am Cedrick LaFleur, your host, and I'm excited to be here with you tonight. And we have a great guest that's in the studio, and I know he's going to be excited to be here with you tonight. Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce our audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. Our guiding leadership principle is the law of consistency, which says motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you going and growing. So you have to develop the good habits that lead to success. And success really is about 80% showing up is about 80% of success. See, some people don't show up, so you can beat them just by showing up. So again, tonight, I'm excited to be here with you. Bruce Springsteen once said, a time comes when you need to stop waiting for the man or woman you want to become and start being the man or the woman that you want to be. Now, I absolutely love that. And tonight, folks, we have a brother in the house that is doing the things that he wants to do, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it. And I'm going to introduce you to him. But let me just say hello to him right quick. Hello, Kenric. Lynn, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good, Cedrick. Happy to be on. How are you?
Oh, I'm always doing great. Well, I'm excited that you're here in studio as well. Now, folks, every week I like to do a proper introduction of my guests. So let me do a proper introduction of Mr. Kenric S. Lynn. That's what I'm going to start calling him, Mr. Kenric S. Lynn, right? Kenric is he's retired from the United States Army and has been an active member of the Scott Air Force Base, Illinois community for almost 12 years. He is so excited to be shifting his desire to serve and add value to his community toward real estate. And tonight we're going to be talking about real estate. That market is hot right now, and we have an expert in the house tonight with us, and we're going to be talking everything real estate. So, with his passion for service in the Scott Air Force Base area, Kenric is ready to help you with your home buying and selling needs, right? So if you know somebody who is trying to buy a house in the Scott Air Force Base, Illinois area, or who is looking to sell a house, you need to go ahead and share this right now. Connect with them. Tell them to come on here and listen tonight. See, as a proud member of Century 21 Bailey and Company family, Kenric carries the values of hard work, integrity, and outstanding client service in everything that he does. When Kenric isn't making home ownership dreams come true for his clients, he enjoys spending time reading and listening to music. Kenric and his family currently lives in Shiloh, Illinois. So again, let's welcome Mr. Kenric Lynn, the owner and founder and proprietor of Local Noon Enterprises.
Thanks for having me, Cedrick.
Absolutely, brother. Well, we're excited that you're here tonight as well. And we're going to be sharing some stuff with you tonight, folks. So make sure you be ready to look at the chat, be ready to comment in the chat. And you'll see Kenric links to his website scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So click on those and go check Kenric out. Now, Kenric, let's start with a few questions here. I read your bio and talked a little bit about you, but our audience normally like to hear directly from you, who you are and how did you get to where you are today?
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Cedrick. So again, I'm Kenric S. We don't start making it Kenric S. Cedric. We just cut off the Lynn S. But I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. I actually joined the Army in 1991. And I retired in 2014. And, while in the military, leadership was something that was always important to me. Just grabbing a better understanding of what it meant to be a leader. And through the years, I found out that people define that differently, even though they were talking about the same thing. In the Army, we talked about it as providing purpose, direction, and motivation. After joining the John Maxwell team in 2016, I learned that leadership was nothing more than influence. And it all boils down to getting people to behave in ways that are not just good for you, but are good for them. Right. So you start getting into learning about, the law of connection and all these other types of things that play a part in helping you become a better leader. Because I love what John Maxwell once said, that if you don't love people, you can't lead people. And sometimes people confuse love with like, because we don't like everybody and everybody doesn't like us.
Right.
But love has more to do with who we are and how we treat others, because we're always trying to find ourselves in others. And, what comes out of us is us. And when it comes to leadership, we need to be able to love people, give people a little bit of space and grace, because you need it too. And so I want to say those are just a couple of the biggest lessons that I learned after joining the Maxwell team. I try to pass some of these things on to, my family and my friends, same way you do, Cedric. Do some coaching, speaking, training opportunities when they come around. But I really found that loving people is really necessary in real estate, because people come to me with different reasons for wanting to buy or sell, or different reasons for wanting to or needing help to rent an apartment. Now, I'm not a property manager. This is where the power of connections come in. So having people in my Rolodex that I can refer them to, so that I can continue to serve them, even though it's not a service that I provide necessarily. But the real estate market in and of itself is broad.
Right.
So you need to know people. You don't only just need to know people, but you need to be able to establish a rapport with them, right? That's something else that's going to help you become a better leader, or help me become a better leader in the real estate space. And we talk about this a lot in our Black Entrepreneurs Institute group, Cedric, about building wealth. There are many ways to build wealth, but the wealthiest people I know all at some point in time started owning real estate. And I learned real quick what it meant to say that the money in real estate is made by buying and not selling. And just that information alone, just what I would always call insider information, because I didn't know nothing about it, and being able to pass that stuff on to people and say, you know what, just because you don't know something doesn't necessarily mean it's difficult.
Right.
You got to get to the point to where you start finding out what you need to know by finding out who you need to know. You need to find out what it is you want. And so that's something else we help lead people through the process of doing. Because I also work with investors. I'm trying to learn how to become a more successful investor myself. So the best way to do that is connect myself with other investors. And you'd be surprised by the things that you learn just by spending time with them and just by helping them get what they want. Like Zig Ziglar said, helping other people get what you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. Right. And I think real estate is a prime example of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's who I am.
You're absolutely right about that. So, Kenric, before we dive into real estate and everything that's happening around real estate right now, tell us something interesting and fun about yourself.
Interesting and fun. So I just started trying to practice writing haiku.
Okay.
You could never have told me back when I was 12, 15, 16, 21, or 32 that, hey, one day you might be interested in poetry. And I don't know where it came from. One day I think I was just reading about it, and I said, well, it seems like something that's interesting. And I think I found it as a challenge. I think I learned something about it that I didn't know. And that was challenging to me, and it was interesting. And so while I'm not going to claim myself to be some wordsmith, but just working through it, I find mentally stimulating. And then I was surprised to find out how many people, I could send things to and say, hey, what do you think about this? What does this make you think? What do you see when you read this? And I get all types of different feedback, and it's different for everybody. And that intrigues me. So it kind of leads me also into the, the space of doing speaking, coaching, and training, and leadership, professional development. Just people see things
Okay.
differently, and that intrigues me.
Okay. Well, that is awesome. So when you said haiku, I started thinking, all right, I'm from South Louisiana. I've never heard of haiku. So I'm glad you said poetry. So now you just helped me. In South Louisiana, we didn't talk too much about haiku. So
We didn't either growing up in Oak Cliff in the Dallas area either. So
all right, folks. So look at that. See that you get educated on your own show sometimes. So I appreciate that. So you're a guy who has multiple entrepreneurial ventures going on, right? So let's kind of talk a little bit about everything that you're doing. So you're in real estate, right?
Yes.
You're a leadership development coach and mentor and trainer. You also mentor a lot of people, and now you're into haiku. Okay, so
I learned from you, Cedric. Put it out there and see what happens.
that is true. Yeah, that's awesome. So, what made you? Well, let me ask it a different way. When you were growing up, did you ever think that you would own multiple or different businesses?
I don't remember. I can tell you though, and I'll tell you a story. So I was stationed in Kuwait. Let's see, before I came here. So back in 2008, and I remember sitting with a counterpart of mine in a truck. We were actually sitting outside the Grand Mosque in Kuwait, waiting for someone else. And I remember watching some people walk by with, suits and ties and briefcases. And I remember telling him when I was younger, I actually saw myself looking like that. Didn't know exactly what it was I was going to be doing, but I saw myself, in a suit with a briefcase. Now, I did have a briefcase in high school at one point in time because that was what was in. But I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if that meant just I was going to be some type of, corporate person. Was I going to be some type of business owner? However, I'd always been big into, I won't call it entrepreneurship, but I love the idea of freelancing. So I was a guy that would go to the grocery store in the morning and buy that little 6-pack of Milky Ways for $1.50, come to school and sell them 50 cents and make $3. And I do that every day.
Okay.
So I think it's something that most people see themselves doing. I think sometimes people get caught up in the how, right? And we know how getting caught up in the how will keep you from getting started.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. So you had the entrepreneurial spirit in you from an early age. You just didn't realize how deep you were going to dive in.
Yeah. I had family members that were into, some multi-level marketing things. And so I was exposed to a different way of looking at ways to make it in life that didn't always involve a 9-to-5.
Okay, awesome. So what we call that in the business world, and I know you know a lot about this, is having multiple streams of income.
Right.
Right. And just so happen, real estate is one of those multiple streams of income. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, folks. So get ready. Here we go. So today, we're going to focus really on this real estate, but why was getting your real estate license important to you? Because you didn't do this like just on a whim, and you didn't do it when you had nothing else going on. You were in the middle of some of the training that we were going through. Yes. And then got your real estate license. So what made you decide to do that?
Well, I'd always had an interest in real estate. And I remember after owning, I think, our second house, it wasn't until then that someone told me that I was a real estate investor. I never looked at myself as a real estate investor. But then it had to do with just not knowing, but also having some limited thinking there about what a real estate investor was. For me, it was somebody who was out, buying and selling and having rental properties and buying commercial properties, all these other kinds of things. I was just buying houses I was living in. And when I had opportunity, I might rent it out when I moved. but I never considered myself a real estate investor. So I decided I wanted to be more well-rounded in the real estate space. And I thought, what better way to do that than to go and pursue my real estate license? And, I consider myself a lifelong learner. I could go to school forever. And it was one of those, it was a little different than some of the other things that I had done to continue to educate myself, like a bunch of online classes. I was always, when I retired from the Army, there was so many things that were out there for veterans. And I signed up for so much stuff. But that was my way of sharpening the saw. I didn't know what I was going to use the saw for, but I had to keep the saw sharp. But the opportunity to get my real estate license came around. And as a matter of fact, we have what's called a pre-licensing course. I finished that course the Saturday before all the shutdowns because of COVID happened around here. So when you mentioned getting my license, going through some training, part of it had to do because I had to wait to take the test, which was, wow, seems like so long ago. But it was last end of May last year, 1st of June, if I remember right. So
okay, all right. So you jumped in really almost at a perfect time, if you could say, well, there's an ideal time, right? Because right now the market is a hot sellers sellers market, right? So tell our audience, Kenric, because some of them, they may hear the term seller's market, but may not understand what it is. So tell them, what is the seller's market and what impact it has on pricing?
Oh, yeah. So in a nutshell, seller's market is basically when supply can't meet demand. The sellers have all the power. But I always joke and said, well, there's always a great deal to be found at the right price. But yeah, because supply is low, sellers know they have leverage. So for them, the market is doing exactly what they wanted it to do when they probably first got into their real estate investment, whether it be their primary residence or commercial properties or some other things. Kind of works like the stock market. Like, I bought low, now I'm selling high. So don't hate me because I bought my house at $300,000 and now the market says it's worth $8 million.
Yes.
So don't be mad at me if you can't afford it. Yeah, it's kind of the way that some of the sellers look at it. Now, for some of them, it works out, depending on the house and depending on the buyers you get. And for others, you'll see their house have been on the market for over a year. But they're willing to wait because they don't have to make moves. And this is some of them, they'll just wait it out, and it works out for some it doesn't. And but yeah, it's just interesting when you look at the property values and you look at the cost of construction. You may have heard people talking about the price of wood. The price of wood going up so high. I remember once I got an estimate to have my deck redone, and my deck is wood. And I remember thinking, I'd love to have a composite deck. Well, this was before COVID, before the real estate market got to where it is now. Well, it would have been cheaper for me to have it redone with wood. Today, that same deck with composite material would actually be cheaper than having the wood, done. So there's a lot of things that also impact prices because the cost of wood impacts new construction, right? New construction drives property values,
Yes, and I will tell you what, I'm going through that right now with building this beach house. There's one builder that says it's going to cost $250 per square foot. There's another one that says, it's going to be $195 per square foot. Right? That's a big difference.
It is. It really is. It really is. Matter of fact, you think about since you're having your house built, I'm going to assume you've got some type of custom things going on in there.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that makes it tough, especially for people who are trying to evaluate a property, is how do I compare what you have that's custom made where nothing else in a half-mile radius is even like it, how does that compare when we're doing market analysis?
Right.
So that price per square foot becomes important because, again, sellers are also emotionally invested in the houses, that, especially ones that they had built. You know, and
Right.
so when you tell someone, it's like, well, you know, within the last 6 months, within a half a mile, 3 houses sold, and, you know, for an average of $150 a square foot, but you want 200, right? Because you have this, and it's imported paint from Italy. Well, nobody else in the neighborhood cares about your imported paint from Italy, right? So,
Right.
so you have to make some business decisions on that side, you know, and come to terms with what you may be getting yourself into when you do decide to sell. Now, by all means, I tell people, if you're going to buy a house, you're going to have it built, make it your own, right? But understand, if you do try to sell it, you know, 5 years from now, you need to know what's actually going to give your home or add value to your home and what's not.
Right.
You got the only pool in the neighborhood, your pool is not that valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things in Texas is whole house generators.
Oh yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah.
everybody want those now. So yeah, it's making a big difference in what you do. So what are the advantages, Kenric, of selling your house today? And for buyers, what are their advantages, if there are any, in this type of market?
Well, for sellers, again, the market's on your side. Okay, so as a matter of fact, we have a house in Arizona that we just refinanced, and we had no intentions of selling, because the last, you know, CMA or market analysis that we got, it wasn't all that favorable for the market. Well, that was 12, 18 months ago. When I found out what houses were selling for now, and the fact that, like, in my neighborhood, there was only one other house for sale, told me that demand shot up. And so it was to our advantage to go ahead and sell it, put it on the market now, because, excuse me, the market has dictated this is the time to do it. You know, I read an article the other day that talked about this time of the year, first week of October, being the best time to buy, just because of other, you know, market conditions. I can't remember what they were, but I found that interesting with this time of year. So that's why you always have to do your research. Now, for buyers, it depends on what you want. So in my experience, you know, sometimes you'll see real estate agents, you know, posting, you know, how many houses they've sold and how many, you know, clients they've helped buy homes. But what you don't see is the amount of offers that they had to put in to get to those wins. And depending on your client, their buying power, over the summer, cash ruled. So you probably heard the stories about people writing in contracts that they were waiving appraisals. So if it doesn't appraise, we'll cover the cost, right? Because banks don't want to lose money.
Right.
And the bank is like, okay, that's fine. You can carry that risk, you know, as long as we get our money.
Right.
But so the people who had the cash to do things like that were winning out in, you know, the price wars. And, you know, you kind of, you want good things to happen with your client, but you also have to tell them, you know, well, if this was, you know, this one was the one for you based on what you could afford, then, you know, it would have been the one for you. Right. So you can't get emotionally attached to something that you don't even have yet, by way of a specific house. Right. It doesn't mean we can't find one for you, but it may not be this one.
Right.
Right. So you can get as creative as you want with writing contracts, but at the end of the day, cash is still king when you go into a competitive space like price wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, Kenric, there are a lot of real estate agents that are out there, and a lot of real estate companies out there. What separates your business from others in the same industry?
Well, most people remember the old yellow jackets. They called them gold, but they were yellow, Century 21. So being powered by Century 21, and with the history of the organization, I didn't feel like I could go wrong. When most of us get our real estate licenses, one of the things we have to do is schedule interviews with brokers. And there was quite a few that I talked to. But for me, it was about the relationship I had with my managing broker, who also happened to be the person that led the class that I took. There was just this level of trust that I had for her. And I can tell you, I call her the wise one, because there is nothing that I haven't experienced that was not tied to something that she either told me in class or from some of the phone calls that we've had. And so just the Century 21 name alone, I think, carries weight on a global scale. And there's nobody out there that's got the the black and gold. It used to be yellow, but they wanted to kind of, I could say, make it a little bit more modern.
Yeah.
But it also, yeah. And so for me too, with my business, Local Noon, part of, my colors were actually, black, white, little gold, and a little bit of purple there, but it just seemed to just match perfectly.
Okay, awesome. So people are looking at how they're going to finance a house.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're going to do a 15-year mortgage, they're going to do a 30-year mortgage. They have the option to pay cash for it. That's always, what I teach them, and is always the best option. But I know that realistically, that's not the option that everybody's going to have, right?
Yeah.
But if you had to do a 15-year or 30-year, which one should clients really consider?
Okay. Now, if I was actually, on the mortgage lending side of the house, depending on your financial situation, right? I did a little bit of following, I'll say this, Ramsey, and so, and again, it was him that I learned about the advantages, 15-year. But I would say that's really a conversation to have with your actual financial advisor, your mortgage lender. And so I say that because it's easy to get a good rate nowadays on a 30-year, mortgage. And most people will say, well, you get the 30-year, right? To kind of give you a little bit more cushion, but then you add a little more and pay it off in 15 years. And it's like, well, if you have the little more, right, why not get, the 15-year mortgage and actually have the things set in place so that you will pay it off in 15 years, versus 30.
Yeah, so most people, if they do the 30-year and say they're going to pay it off, they typically don't.
Nope.
Overall,
nope.
Be consistent with that.
Nope, because the minute they have the money free, they earmark it for something else.
Yes.
And it's usually, in my experience, I'll talk about myself, it usually won't be for getting out of debt in some other area. It'll be about having more. I can have more disposable income now.
Right.
So it's more about focusing on the now and not the later. But funny things later, as long as you still wake up every day, tomorrow has a funny way of showing up.
Right.
And I know what that's like, but numbers wise, like I said, it really is based on your profile and what's best for you. Because like I said, people buy for different reasons.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if someone's credit is messed up, and they still purchase a home.
So we had to define what messed up means. So when it comes to buying houses, similar like rental property, you're going to get an apartment, most of the time they want to look at your rental history. Some of the other stuff they may not, really pay a lot of attention to, but they want to know that when you was renting a place, you were paying your rent. Right. I will say this, in my experience, even if you want to get a, FHA loan, you still got to have at least a 580 or ish credit score. So, the answer is yes, but it all depends on how the lender defines messed up.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And most of the time though, when you try to have that conversation with people. So I think we talked about this before when I was on the show. People think you go into real estate like you buy cars, right? We're gonna go down there, we're gonna look at some cars, we're gonna test drive them, and then we'll go and try to get, if we don't have the cash, then we'll try to get financing. But in real estate, you really need to know what it is you can actually buy and afford, or if you're going to get a loan, what someone is willing to lend you before you go out there. And it's hard, Cedric, because I said earlier, you want to help people.
Right.
And sometimes you'll have a little bit of a grace period. It's like, okay, we'll go look at a couple because you've never actually even looked at houses before. You've been renting your whole life. And so the experience, you can be the first one to give them that experience.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, from a business standpoint, you could hurt your business getting involved with too many tire kickers.
Yeah.
Yes. So you want to look at $200,000 houses, but you don't want your credit run.
Right.
Which tell me you probably can't afford a $200,000 house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely understand that. So what do we say is the best part of owning your own business? Being the own boss.
So the best part, I never really talk about being my own boss because I still remember that saying is that, entrepreneurs are the only people crazy enough, to exchange a 40-hour-a-week job for, for an 80-hour-a-week business. Because being your own boss it's not as easy as people say it is.
Right.
Or some people make it out to be. And I don't want to talk like it's not possible, right? It's always possible. It could be the greatest experience in your life. Maybe that's the thing that frees you to be who you want to be.
Right.
But depending on how your business is built, so we'll talk about, like with us doing some training, coaching and things like that, unless we have trainers and coaches on the payroll, we got to show up.
Right.
Like a barber does.
Yeah.
No heads get cut if I'm the only barber at the shop.
Yeah. Right. And if you're not out there grinding, there's no checks coming in.
Right. So, I mean, we've been going through the mastermind, the E-Myth. And, it's really eye-opening when you think about the importance of systems and processes in the beginning. And I think sometimes with a lot of programs, people are trying so hard to get you that return on investment up front that you miss out on the opportunity to actually do what the author of E-Myth said is, build your business maturely in the beginning.
Yes.
So, but as far as, it's great though, because, people say I want to work for myself. Excuse me, but it's more like, well, you work for your customers. I mean, you've got your boundaries and things set up, but your clients and your customers that you're serving are I mean, if you don't treat them right, how many other people out there coaching, speaking, and training, Cedric?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you not only do you have to show up to work, you're constantly cultivating relationships, right? Constantly up leveling without taking a loss in your business to do so.
Right.
So, but it's great because you're also positioned to build it in a way that nobody else ever thought of.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And it's interesting that you say that, Kenric, because here's the thing with entrepreneurship. It is great being your own boss, if you will. All right. It's great to say, I'm an entrepreneur. I own my own business. I'm the CEO and I'm the president of this. I'm the founder of it. It's nice. But if you're not willing to put in the work, the time, the effort, the energy, get the available resources, and most importantly, I agree. I had never heard of the E-Myth before we started doing in BEI, but he speaks my language because one of the things that I always teach in my programs to entrepreneurs is you have to have systems and processes in place. Without systems and processes, you're going to be doing the same task a different way every time. If you have a system in place or you have a process in place for it, it's going to be done consistently the exact same way. That's going to make you more efficient and take out some inefficiencies in your business. If you get sick, somebody else could step in for you because there's a procedure for it. Boom, they could do it the exact same way. And this is where I think a lot of entrepreneurs go wrong, because you said something earlier that, hey, they want to jump into it and they want to get going, but they don't want to do the foundational stuff at the beginning. Think of your builder. If the builder came in and said, we're going to start building your house, we're going to start with the upstairs first. Wait, time out. Wait a minute. What about the foundation?
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what happens. Really what happens.
Because I think everybody, well, not everybody, but I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are thinking of the end game, the outcome, the check coming in, the reward. It's nice. You need that. But you have to start off foundationally first. Get that in order and then move forward in a right way. So how have your priorities changed, Kenric, from when you first started your business?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I have slowly made my 1% better every day shift to building those systems and processes and paying attention to the ones I thought I had. And, come to find out, just like you just said, the process will change, because I don't know, something about and it's different being flexible, right? But the whole process would change just because of one customer, right? Sure. And then you realize you really don't have a solidified process. Something as simple as emails. Like I know, the way you operate, things are automated, and you have platforms kind of helping you with that back office stuff, so that you're not typing a new email to send to the guests that you invite onto your show.
Right.
And how many times have we done that?
Yeah.
Let me talk to this customer differently. It's like, well,
yeah.
we just invite them to the show. So we need to have, just have the process and let the process run itself.
Yes.
And I had someone the other day, hadn't heard this in a while, but the idea of, well, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. And I understand what that means, but you and I both know there's some fear behind that. There's this sense I got to have control. There's a little aspect of everything that goes on, and that the only way I'm going to evaluate is if it's perfect, so to speak. In my standards, as though I'm perfect.
Right.
And so I think about that with my business a lot now, and I know you've often talked about, because I know you're an Apple guy. You talk about how you manage your folders, and I've tried to mirror some of that. Yet, even though I'm not an Apple guy, I'm an Evernote person. But it's but the same. It has the same functionality and features.
Absolutely.
You got a script. What's the script today for this product or service? Here it is. Let me go right into this folder. All I got to do is copy and paste it, put it into my email platform, unless I already have it built in there. And I don't have to rewrite it.
Absolutely.
I don't have to rewrite it. So thinking about my business processes has become much more of a priority than before, because like I said earlier, it was all about trying to get out there and network and connect with people and get business. So I was avoiding spending the 10 hours setting up a system or a process and doing something different for 10 minutes every time I had to do it. And then you find out that's a very, very good way to waste your time as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. So, Kenric, when I get ready to go, or anyone gets ready to go out and look for a house, they need to get a real estate agent.
Yes.
So what are, I know there are a lot of questions that you can ask a real estate agent when you're looking, but give us a couple of questions, 2 or 3 questions that you should be asking to decide if that real estate agent is for you.
Well, that's a great question, Cedrick, because I was reading something about professional development and being a real estate agent. And one of the things that I learned, there's really no such thing as a part-time and a full-time real estate agent. However, one of the questions you should ask potential real estate agents is how much time do you actually spend working on real estate every day, right? And let me explain why I said what I said the first time. Most of the time, it really boils down to how many clients do I want to work with at a time. And you should always have people in the pipeline. But if it's just you and you're not part of one of those real estate teams, you can only service so many people effectively. Because even in real estate, your systems and processes need to be refined.
Sure.
Because you could run yourself ragged, driving all over town and all these other kinds of things to just to show somebody something they can't buy. So that's, it's something to think about. But if you're going out to find a real estate agent, you really want to know how much time do they have available to help you find what you're looking for, especially today, again, with supply being low and demand being high. Things will hit the market one day and it'll be gone tomorrow. And this is no knock on a real estate agent who also works a full-time job. But if you're the type of person who's waiting on your real estate agent to send you information about homes, and only time you can ever get that information is when they get off work at 5 o'clock in the evening, that might not work out well for you. Right. So, I would really, find out what their process is of letting you know about properties that they think you may or may not be interested in. I think one of the other questions is, and you may not know this as a buyer or know how to do this, but you want to pay attention to the questions that the agent asks you. Are they uncovering your needs, right? So one of the things you probably want to ask them as a buyer is, what's your process of helping me uncover my needs, right? Because if I don't really understand what it is you want, I can't really help you as efficiently as I would like to. But if all I worry about is how much money you have and what neighborhood you want to live in, and you tell me, well, because sometimes people don't know. And it's funny because some people say, I want a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, walkout basement, 4,000 square feet. And then you find out what they really want is 3-bedroom with 2-bath, with a swimming pool, and that's happened because sometimes that ends up being the house that the people buy. So again, one of the questions you should ask is, what's your process for helping me uncover my needs, right, and my wants? And it sounds like something that an agent would normally do. But again, we're all different. And we have different levels of experience. And sometimes we find what works and then we apply one size fits all, right? And but I think it's most important to find out how much time are you actually going to spend, can I expect you to spend with me on a regular basis?
Yeah, I like that. Very good question right there to ask. So can you fire your agent?
You absolutely can. You
All
can.
right.
And sometimes it's necessary because, again, it's a personal relationship. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I had a friend not too long ago. He had it was a great property he was listing, great opportunity. But just like you can fire your agent, sometimes agents have to say, hey, I'd really love to help you, but this is not working out. You have that same right as a buyer to tell your agent, I don't think this is working out. Something here is out of alignment. Sure. And you can fire your agent.
Yeah. And I know that there are some things that are in an agent contract that are negotiable and some things that are not negotiable, right?
Right.
People need to understand and know what their rights are.
Yes.
And what those negotiables are, and not be afraid to say. I'll give you an example. My agent, when we're going through the interview process, they said, hey, 3% is normally, it's 6% total, 3% for each person. Yes. And that was nice and good. But I said, no, I'll pay you 2.5% each.
Mm-hmm.
And the agent says, well, what happens is the agents look at what percentage they're going to get paid first, and then they may not show people your house, the buyer's agent. And I said, well, okay, so then for you, if you're looking at that first, that means maybe you're not looking at for my best interest, because you're worried about how much you will get paid first.
Right.
I said, so I'll tell you what, here's what we'll do. I'll put an incentive in. I'm going to pay you 2.5%. I'll pay you the other, and the buyer's agent, the other 0.5% if you sell my house at my listing price or higher. See, now I'm giving them an incentive to work.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a great point. Understanding that you have power and leverage, right, to dictate terms of how the contracts are written. So that's why, sometimes we go into the MLS, which is the multiple listing service. And this is where it shows, if I'm looking for a buyer, my commission as the buying agent will usually be listed in the listing, right? And sometimes if you're not paying attention, you'll see that it'll say one amount, but the contract you have with your agent, right, is different, because you're basing it off, with your agent, with your buyer, you're basing it off something that kind of, I don't want to call it standard, but it's like a normal practice, so to speak, for a certain amount. And so, being your buyer's ally, making sure you do those checks and balances are important. But you're absolutely right, Cedric. You as the seller, you can negotiate those terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you just don't know. And there's a standard in here, and I've seen their agent put in that the contract is good for a whole year. Well, wait a minute. I don't want it to be for a whole year, because what if you're not doing anything? Now I'm stuck for a whole year. Right. So I tell people, I don't know how you guys do it, and you don't have to say that if you don't want to, but what I always tell people is, look, we're going to do things 3-month increments. Okay. That's gives you time to work it. If it's not working, then boom, we need to find somebody else. Yes. Who can do who can work it for me, right? So you're not stuck there for a year. So you just have to, when you go to buy a house, you just have to know what your negotiables are and what your negotiables are not. So Kenric, I know you work out a lot. You're always posting all your workout things and encouraging people and all that type of stuff. And trust me, I need that encouragement and motivation, but the working out is just not necessarily high on my priority list. I get it in from time to time. So if you're home and nobody was home, just you and the four walls, what dessert are you going to get? Oh man. Probably a box of Star Crunches, Cedric. A box of what? Star Crunches. Little Debbie. It's a Little Debbie. Oh. You can get them in school. I don't know, something about that little cookie. Okay. I'm gonna have to go look that up. I don't even know what that is. Okay. Well, if you like chocolate and caramel or a little Rice Krispie, you'll be happy. Okay, I'll have to go look that up. I don't even know what that is. See, South Louisiana, man, we didn't have all that stuff. We had other stuff. So we have a couple minutes here left. Sure, Kenric. Sometimes, Kenric, entrepreneurs decide to quit and give up when things get tough. Maybe it's not working out the way that they wanted to work out, or they have to put in a little bit more time and energy and effort, and they're not willing to do that, and they want to quit. What would you say to those entrepreneurs who are on that verge of saying, I'm just going to throw in the towel and move on? First thing that would come to mind is and I guess I'm biased towards this now, because before I didn't know this, but I would wonder, who your coach is, right? What accountability groups have you been a part of? What's been your level of activity in those? And so I'm getting to, who have you been seeking help from up to this point?
And sometimes the answer is like, well, nobody's been figuring things out for myself. And it's like, well, maybe it's, I mean, well, it's always us, but you're about to give up on this thing that you said was your dream.
Right.
Because you've run into an obstacle or a set of obstacles that you can't seem to navigate over, around, or through by yourself. And it doesn't have to be that way. So, right. But if I was also talking to him, well, tell me what caused you to come to this decision? What happened, right? Why today and not a month ago? What's different between now and 5 months ago when you started? And try to help them get to the root of where they felt like things kind of went wrong for them. And they feel like the only way for them to move forward is to get out. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. But if I don't have any knowledge about that, I would definitely, question, where have you been getting your help from? Yeah.
Yes, you got to have a good coach. I love that. Last question for you, Kenric, before we close out the show here. If there was a book that was written about you, what would the title be, and what would the summary in the back of the book say about you?
Cedric, I've been wondering if you're going to ask me this question for a while. Kind of been keeping it to myself, but the book title would definitely be The Misfit Behind the Smile.
The Misfit Behind the Smile. Okay.
Yeah. And the back of it would probably talk about how just because you see me smiling all the time doesn't mean I don't have struggles. You like you said, you see me posting all the time, and encouraging people, but those are messages to myself too.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, I like that. The Misfit Behind the Smile. And what would the summary in the back of the book say?
Kenric is just a guy that's been trying to work his way through life, trying to learn his way through life, trying to discover his way through life, just so he could be better at giving to others.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you, brother, for coming on the show. Folks, you've been listening to Mr. Kenric S. Lynn.
S. Cedric.
S. I'm sorry. S. Kenric S. Lynn. It sounds like text doc or something. So Kenric is a real estate agent in the Scott Air Force Base, Illinois area. His website is localnoon.com. Go look up his website. If you're in that area and you're looking to buy or sell real estate, you need to be reaching out to Kenric Lynn, Kenric S. Lynn at Local Noon, and he can help you with all your real estate needs. If you're looking for a coach, if you're looking for someone to help take you to the next level, think through what things you need to do as an entrepreneur, then reach out to Kenric S. Lynn at Local Noon. Folks, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Talk Leadership with Cedric. Everybody needs a little TLC, and I enjoyed having you here tonight. Make sure you tune in next Monday night. We have a fantastic guest for you on Talk Leadership with Cedric, which is going to air at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Tonight, make sure that you tune in right after this on our Empowered Living channel to the Black Entrepreneurship Live Show. Damian Johnson and myself are going to be on. We have some dynamic guests who are going to be on. If you want to talk about boot camp, you want to learn about Connect and Collab, you want to learn about what BEI is up to, the Black Entrepreneurs Institute, what we're up to, come tune in with us in the next couple of minutes. And then I'm going to see you Friday morning at 8:30 Central Time for Friday Mental Motivation. And make sure you're there for 15 minutes of pain. I'm going to get you motivated, get you excited to end your week and start your weekend off very strong. So thank you guys again for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Mr. Kenric Lynn, for coming on the show. Thanks, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Bye-bye.